A poor teenager bought an old jacket from a thrift store for just $5. Inside one of the pockets, he found a letter that had been hidden for over 40 years. What he discovered next changed two families forever. My name is Ethan Miller. When I was 17 years old, my family had almost nothing. My father worked long hours at a warehouse. My mother cleaned houses. Every dollar mattered. New clothes were a luxury we couldn't afford. So whenever I needed something, I visited thrift stores. One cold November afternoon, I found an old brown jacket hanging in the corner of a small shop. It looked worn out. The sleeves were faded. But it was warm. And it only cost $5. I bought it. At home, I slipped my hands into the pockets. That's when I felt something. A folded piece of paper. Yellow with age. I carefully opened it. It wasn't a receipt. It wasn't a shopping list. It was a letter. A handwritten letter. Dated April 12, 1983. The first line read, "My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, then I finally found the courage to tell you how much I love you." I kept reading. The letter was written by a man named Robert. He spoke about dreams. About wanting to marry Emma. About building a family together. At the end, he promised to give her the letter the next day. But something felt strange. The letter had never been delivered. It had remained hidden inside the jacket for more than 40 years. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Who was Robert? Who was Emma? What happened? For weeks, the mystery stayed in my mind. Finally, I decided to search. Using the names in the letter, I spent hours online. At first, I found nothing. Then one evening, I discovered an old newspaper article. It mentioned a Robert Hayes from Ohio. The article was dated 1983. The year on the letter. My heart started racing. According to the article, Robert had died in a car accident the day after writing the letter. I stared at the screen in silence. He never got the chance to give the letter to Emma. Suddenly, everything made sense. The letter wasn't forgotten. It was unfinished. And somehow, decades later, it had found its way to me. I knew what I had to do. I had to find Emma. The search wasn't easy. Weeks turned into months. Then finally, I found a woman named Emma living in a small town outside Cleveland. She was now in her 70s. I wrote her a message. A few days later, she replied. She agreed to meet. I drove 3 hours to her town. The entire trip, my hands shook with nervousness. When I arrived, Emma welcomed me into her home. She looked confused. After all, I was a stranger. I sat down and carefully placed the old letter on the table. The moment she saw the handwriting, her eyes widened. Her hands began trembling. Slowly, she picked it up. For several minutes, she read in complete silence. Then tears rolled down her face. She held the letter against her chest and cried. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly. Like someone remembering a part of their soul they thought was lost forever. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Robert. She told me everything. They had been deeply in love. They planned a future together. Then suddenly, he died. She never understood why he never showed up that day. For 40 years, she believed he had changed his mind. She believed he had left her. Now she knew the truth. He never stopped loving her. He simply never got the chance. For hours, Emma shared old photographs and memories. Before I left, she thanked me. But I wasn't prepared for what happened next. Several months later, Emma contacted me again. She told me the letter had helped her reconnect with Robert's surviving family. People who had become strangers over the decades. Families who hadn't spoken in years. Families who now gathered together because of one forgotten letter. One small piece of paper had healed wounds that had existed for generations. That day, I learned something important. Sometimes the things we think are lost forever are only waiting to be found. And sometimes, the smallest discovery can change more lives than we ever imagined. A single forgotten letter carried love across 40 years, and finally found its way home.